If you're a podcast guest, sooner or later, you're going to hit the point where it feels like Groundhog's Day. Maybe you're an author doing a virtual book tour, and it's like, man, it seems like I'm answering the same questions with the same answers over and over. Maybe you're a coach or a consultant, and it's like, wow, how many times do I have to explain why people need the service and the benefit that I have? Maybe you're a software as a service company or a brand in a company. And it's like, wow, I just feel like I'm explaining over and over the same questions to the same people. Well, if this has hit you, it's important to take action, because if you feel like you're phoning it in, guess what? The audience is going to feel like you're phoning it in. Hi, this is Tom Schwab with Interview Valet, and I have felt that. I have done over 1,200 podcast interviews, and early on, I'd say a lot of them were Groundhog's Day. You ask me a question, I'm going to give you the same answer. It got boring for me. It got boring for the audience. And guess what? It didn't drive the results. So here are some things that you can do to always be fresh on a podcast interview, to keep it from becoming Groundhog's Day. Now, first, let's talk about the mindset behind this. Now, somebody pointed out to me years ago that Christianity was nothing but repurposed content for the last 2,000 years. And it's true, right? All of the basis for that is in 2,000 years ago, and even before that with the Old Testament. So there's nothing really new to talk about. No, there's a lot new to talk about. And content is king, but context is God, small g. So taking that and repurposing that, doing different focuses on that, making it fresh for the person. Because even if you've talked about it numerous times, there may be somebody else that has heard it for the first time. You wrote your book, you know it backwards and forwards. You run your company, you know it backwards and forwards. But to somebody that's listening, somebody that's a prospective reader, somebody that's a prospective client, somebody that's a prospective great customer to your business, it's new to them. So you want to make sure that you're just as excited about it. So let's go through some examples here. Now, let's say you're a nonfiction author. I'm a nonfiction author. I wrote that book, Podcast Guest Profits. Let's see, wrong side. How to grow your business with the targeted interview strategy. Now, early on, I would just say, let's talk about the book. Well, it's just like this surface layer, right? And I'd get tired with it. So instead, when I go into to talk with a podcaster, I'll say, I think your audience would be very interested in this part. Maybe it's how to find the right podcast. Maybe it's how to move people from being a passive listener to an active visitor to an engaged lead. Maybe it's how to repurpose that content. You can just go through the different chapters and you can probably find 14 different things that you could focus on, or just start going through and anything that's like highlighted a section in there, you could make an entire podcast interview. Now, this helps because you're providing more detailed content in there. And when you go to promote an episode or you go to repurpose that episode, it's much easier to do that than it is just say, hey, here's another interview where I talked about my book in generality, So that's an easy way an author can do it. Well, how about a coach or a consultant? Well, you've probably got various types of people that you work with. Once again, content is king, but context is God. So if you are on a podcast that is service businesses, great one like Service Business Mastery, well, make sure that when you're talking about things that you use examples from their audience. Use examples of roofers, of plumbers, of landscape, making it more specific to them. If you're on a show that is more female based, well, when you go to use examples, don't use all guys as it. They'll look and go, well, maybe that's not him. If you're a consultant and you work with for-profits or nonprofits, but you're on a nonprofit show, make sure that all of the examples that you use are applicable to nonprofits. Once again, make sure it's specific to them. And that's one of the great things about podcasts. The audiences are smaller, but you know who you're talking to. It's not like getting on radio and you could talk to, who's ever tunes in. No, they have selected to listen to you. And 70% of them listen to the entire episode. So make sure that you're talking directly to them. For companies, great way to do this. Now, with this, you can talk to a specific industry, give specific examples there. You can also bring on talent that is specific to that audience. At one time, we worked with a software as a service company, business to business. They had 6 different people that was their talent for podcast interviews. So if you wanted to talk about the technology part, boom, this is the person that talks to technology. If you wanted to talk to somebody about customer experience, boom, this is the person that comes into there. If you want to talk about women in business from that company, boom, they've got somebody that can talk on that. So they had the perfect guest for every audience. The other thing that was really nice about this is that if you do a great job on a podcast, chances are they're probably not going to have you back in the next 90 days. They want fresh views there. But if you do a great job on a podcast, they love your company, they may have somebody else from your company back next quarter and the quarter after that and the quarter after that. So with this, you get multiple bites of the apple from the same company, but just different people in it. Hey, make sure that you always keep things fresh. Don't just phone in an interview. Just don't go through this generic talking points. It's boring for you. And guess what? The audience is going to know it too. Get excited. Try to figure out what's that little nugget that can be different on this podcast. Ask the host, what's important to your audience? She'll tell you, and then bring that content to them. Hey, it's repurposed content. It's ordinary to you, but it's amazing to other people. So show up amazing. Podcast interviews are a great way to build your brand and build your business. Just make sure you come up with your A game fresh every time.